from the Hult Center in Eugene, Oregon, this is the 2024 Collegiate Athlete Hall of Fame ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the Hall of Fame medals, please welcome the CEO of the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association, Sam Seams. Now let's meet tonight's inductees. From the University of Oregon, Bill Dellinger. From Cal State, LA, Rosalyn Bryant. From Rice University, Regina Kavanaugh. From the University of Louisiana, Hollis Conway. From the University of Tennessee, Benita Fitzgerald. From LSU, the late Glenn Harden, accepting on his behalf his son, Billy Harden. From Villanova University, Marty Liquori. From Mississippi College, Larry Myricks. From Texas Women's University, Louise Ritter. From the University of Arizona, Amy Skieresz. From the University of Pittsburgh, Tricia K. Smith. And from the University of Southern California, this is Angela Williams. And we would like to recognize two inductees, unfortunately not able to attend tonight's festivities. First, from the University of Southern California, Balázs Kiss. And from the University of Kansas, Carl Saw. One more round of applause for the 2024 inductees to the Collegiate Athlete Track and Field and Cross Country Hall of Fame.
They say history is written by the winners. And if that's true, tonight's athletes have done a whole lot of writing because they've done a whole lot of winning. With record-breaking runs.
Liquori, what a race. 1 yard, Liquori has got away in the second.
Throws that travel distances never before seen. Jumps that kept getting higher.
And Hollis Conway is the new American indoor record holder.
And further. And races run, and won again. These athletes are some of the best collegiate track and field have ever witnessed. And tonight, when these legends take the stage, they'll make their mark on the sport for one final time.
Angela Williams of Southern Cal.
So get your pen and pad out and write this down. It's the 2024 Collegiate Athlete Hall of Fame, and we're about to witness history.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage your host for the evening, Neil Everett.
How's it? Welcome. Aloha. What's up? How you doing? Oh, what a show we've got for you planned tonight. I mean, we've got the best of the best, the fastest of the fast, the hoppiest of the hops. Oh, wait, that makes it sound like it's a beer fest. Bartender, we will toast 14 women and men who are the finest of the finest in collegiate track and field and collegiate cross country. Between this group of 14, they've won 67 national collegiate titles, set 25 collegiate records, won 5 Olympic or world championship medals, set 4 world records. Why in the world am I still talking? On your mark, get set, go!
Bill Dellinger, Oregon. Long before shouts of "Go Pre" rang out at Hayward Field, Bill Dellinger was the man. An Oregon original, Dellinger was the first in the program's proud lineage of great distance runners. Running for legendary coach Bill Bowerman, Dellinger won the NCAA mile in 1954 as only a sophomore. When Bowerman encouraged him to run longer distances, Dellinger took up the challenge and won an NCAA crown at 5,000 meters, later establishing several American records in the event. Dellinger set the standard for future generations to come, then mentored a number of emerging stars as Bowerman's successor as head coach of the Ducks. What followed was a Hall of Fame coaching career. He's Oregon's OG. And tonight, Bill Dellinger, once again, is a Hall of Famer.
Well, he certainly put the first lump in our throat tonight on his original introduction. Here he is, Coach Dellinger, everybody. With Rudy Chappell, who ran for coach way back when, and Coach and Rudy got together earlier this week to talk about what tonight meant and maybe some questions worth asking. And so between us, we're gonna fire away and give you some answers from an original double-double. Hall of Fame as a coach, Hall of Fame as an athlete. And when you think of your running career, what are you most proud of?
Well, I should say that, and I'm speaking on his behalf because after Coach Dellinger's stroke, it's a little difficult for him to speak. So the first thing is he wants to thank everybody here involved with this induction on the great honor. He's incredibly grateful and wanted me to pass that on. In terms of his accomplishment as a runner that he most treasures, he told me that it is absolutely what he did in his last Olympic effort. He had been a runner at Oregon, won a number of national championships, set American records, world records, and had made two Olympic teams. And in 1960, retired after the Rome Olympics. He was done. He was ready to move on with the rest of his life, and he was going to start his career as a teacher and hopefully get into coaching. And then in 1963, he got the bug. He thought, maybe I can do this one more time. And a year out from the Olympic Games, he started training. And he knew it was going to be hard. He was working full time, and he knew he was going to be training himself. But lo and behold, a year later, he made the Olympic team. And then at the Olympics, he made his first final. And then at the Olympic Games, he won a bronze medal. And when he looks back, he looks at that and says, that was by far the thing he's most proud of, because he knew how hard it was going to be to do it on his own after 3 years of retirement, gaining a bunch of weight, and then committing once again to making it. And that's his number one accomplishment.
Fabulous. You had a special relationship with Steve Prefontaine. You coached him. He was in our first Hall of Fame class. We're in Eugene, where his spirit is still strong. There's recollections of memories of a memory. What made you two click so much that that relationship is still special nearly 50 years later?
I'll give it a go. All right. So the first thing that Coach Dellinger said was, you have to remember that there was a lot that they had in common. You were from Grants Pass and then Springfield. Pre was from Coos Bay. They were both high school phenoms, and they both had this dream to one day run for the legendary University of Oregon track program. And so that they had in common. And what he said really made the relationship work between them was trust. There wasn't anything that Steve was going to run into as a track athlete that Bill hadn't already gone through. And Bill had every bit of confidence that Pre would do everything that he would ask of him, training-wise and in races, to ensure success. So that trust never, ever wavered. And that was at the core of it. And the last thing that Coach Dellinger said about the Pre relationship is that he let Pre be Pre. Pre was a free spirit, and it was that free spirit mentality that allowed him to do the things that he did. And Coach Dellinger was the kind of coach that he made the adjustments, whether a kid was from the Bronx like Centrowitz, or Wayland, Massachusetts like Alberto, or Don Clary from Alaska. You have to make the adjustment, but at the core and at the foundation is trust, and that's what allowed that relationship to really thrive. So.
All right, Coach first. Now as an athlete, as a runner, into our Hall of Fame. What are you most proud of? Can you separate the athlete from the coach?
You want to give it a go, or do you want me to try?
Go ahead.
This was the easiest one for him to answer. And as you know, you saw the video, he was a multiple American and world record holder. He was a national champion. He was in 3 Olympic Games and won a bronze medal. Those were all individual awards and accolades that he treasures. Really important. However, he loved being a coach more than anything else. He knew that when somebody came to the University of Oregon as an 18-year-old kid, that they came with a promise and a hope, and they were giving and trusting him to help fill that. Parents too. And he took that seriously, and over that 4 or 5 years of working together, he knew that a bond was created and that they were learning stuff that would help them later on in life. What he cares about most, and he pointed at me when I was asking this question, and he was looking at me, and he said, it's watching the runners and athletes that came through the program move on. Take their lessons that they learned through the relationship with him to then start their careers, get married, have families, develop their careers, and watching them all the way along as they developed their lives. That is what a coach does. You learn lessons through those relationships, and that's what mattered to him most. And I can say this, he didn't say this, but we know in Eugene, we get a lot of major track events every year. At his house, which he's had for years and years, up at Hendricks Park, it's like they might as well put a revolving door in his house. It's old coaches, colleagues, but mostly old athletes, his athletes, that come and visit him. I live in Portland. Whenever I come to Eugene, which is often, I try to see him. And if I don't see him, I feel really guilty because he's my coach. And I was here almost 50 years ago, the very first time, and he's always going to be my coach. And it's those types of relationships that matter most, and that's why being a coach was the thing that he cares about most.
When it comes, When it comes to Oregon and track and field, they talk about the Mount Rushmore. Right there, his face is on it. He put the track in Track Town. Coach Bill Dellinger, everybody. Thank you, Rudy. Who's next?
Rosalyn Bryant, Cal State, Los Angeles. With her bright colored beads running through her braids and a running style just as vibrant, Rosalyn Bryant made a bold statement coming down the track. That statement, winner. At Cal State Los Angeles, Bryant made an impact, becoming the first athlete to clinch national collegiate titles in the 100, 200, and 400 meters. Her dominance in the 400 was particularly newsworthy. Bryant anchored the United States 4x400 relay team to a silver medal in the 1976 Olympics while racing to an American record in the individual event. Not done yet, her final race as a Golden Eagle produced a collegiate record that stood for nearly a decade. Talk about making a statement. Rosalyn Bryant of Cal State LA is in the Hall of Fame.
100, 200, 400, it didn't matter. She was winning. So we both flew in on the same flight, and we happened to be on the same shuttle bus coming to our hotel. And I said, "How would you like this conversation to go between you and I?" And she says, "Well, we got to start at the beginning. We got to start in Chicago, and we got to start with my parents."
Yes, I have to pay homage to my parents, Marcus Bryant and Eddie Mae Bryant, because they were my foundation. Without them, I couldn't have done this because they were the two people that made me believe in myself and believe that I could do anything.
And from your foundation, then there were the mentors and the idols you had in Chicago, like Barbara Farrell was one we talked about.
Yes, I'm from the west side of Chicago, west side. And I had many, many good mentors. I had Barbara Farrell, who was a member of the 68, 72 Olympic team, And one of my coaches was also Ira Murchison, who was a member of the 1956 Olympic team. So I watched these role models, and I figured if they could do it, I could do it.
And you did it in Chicago, but then you decided I've got to do it better or to do it in more exposure. I've got to come to Los Angeles, Cal State Los Angeles. Talk about that transition.
Well, Chicago, it's kind of cold and it's kind of hard to train, especially during the winter. So I wanted to go out to California because the weather was quite a bit better and there was a lot more competition out there. So I think I made the right choice. I had a coach, who was the coach that also coached Barbara Farrell, Fred Jones, and that led me to being on the 1976 Olympic team.
We talked about you were before your time, or when it came to profiting from racing, but you were ahead of your time when it came to speaking out that women athletes deserve the same kind of coverage that their male counterparts did. You were not shut up and dribble. You were going to not shut up, and you were going to talk about it to the media.
Well, I felt that I had a platform because I was out, I was in the open, and the women were saying this about that the women didn't get as much as the men athletes got. So when I had a chance, I did make it known that we wanted everything that the men got.
Well, that's a novel idea. Your thoughts on the state of racing today?
Well, I can say that, oh my God, we have come a long ways. Just walking around the tour that we did today at this stadium, it's amazing. And the things that the athletes have to assist them, so much more than what we had, but I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them, and I wouldn't change anything about what I had. I'm happy for that also.
What was your old memory of Hayward?
My memory of Hayward when I was here in '76 was a lot of pollen, and it was very, very tough making that team, but I just stuck it out and made it through.
All right, you did not travel alone when we met at the Eugene airport. You want to shout out to who you brought
Yes,
with
I
you?
want to give a shout out to my son, Rashard Clark, my daughter, Brianna Clark, and of course, their father, Gary Clark, who is no longer here with us, but I just want to let him know, I know he's looking down, and I know he is grateful and thankful to what is going on today.
Rosalyn Bryant, everybody. Who's next? Thank you.
Glenn Harden, LSU. Tall, lanky, and long leg. LSU's Glenn Slats Harden utilized his physique to great advantage. World-renowned advantage, in fact. During an era when freshmen were not allowed to compete on the varsity team, Harden bided his time by setting a world record and securing silver in the 400-meter hurdles at the 1932 Olympics. As a varsity letter winner, he was just as dominating. Thanks to Harden's double wins in the 440 and the 220 low hurdles, LSU struck gold by winning the team title at the 1933 NCAA Track and Field Championships. Harden doubled up on that at the NCAAs the very next year, later soaring to a world record that stood for 2 decades. They called him Slats, and tonight we'll call LSU's Glenn Harden a Hall of Famer.
Representing his daddy is
Thank
Billy
you.
Harden right here. You know, your dad's been gone for about 50 years now. What would he think of what's going on tonight, what we just rolled right there?
Well, you know, my dad came from a farming family in the Delta of Mississippi, and he would be honored and very, very proud and appreciative of this award.
I said to Billy last night, I said, tell me a story about your dad. And he goes, well, my dad wasn't a storyteller, but he certainly had stories to tell. We talked about, you know, what a great track man he was, what a great football player he was. But let's go back to 1936, and we talked about Louis and the movie and his relationship with Louise Ritter.
Yeah. Well, a lot of you might remember the movie and the book, Unbroken. And Louise Zampini was the the best guy on the book. It was about him in the book and after the war. But he was going to Southern California, and he made the 1936 Olympic team, and went over to Berlin, Germany for the Olympic Games, and he and my dad seemed to just kind of make friends. So they hung around together. My dad went out, he won the gold medal, and so after he ran and Louise ran, they were on a bus going down Berlin, and my dad said, let's go on the top and see if we can get one of those flags. So they climb up there, and he was real short, so my dad just reached up there, and he grabbed hold of one of those flags, and he stuck it in his pocket. Well, Zampini kept saying, Slats, I want to get me a flag too. So the bus stopped, and he jumps out of the bus, and my dad goes after him, and he says, what are you doing? He says, I'm going down there to that telephone pole, because it's got flags up there. I'm going to climb that telephone pole, and I'm going to get me a flag. And anyway, he goes over there. He's halfway up the flag pole, telephone pole, and the police start coming after him. And they're hollering at him, and he jumps down, and because he was a miler, he takes off running while all these police are going after him, and they can't catch up with him. Finally, he gets so far ahead of them, they just quit.
That's a good story. Hey, what'd you learn from your dad when it came to the hurdles? Because those of you who don't know, Billy was an Olympic hurdler as well, a national champion, LSU, 64 Olympics. The first father and son Olympians in the same track and field event. What did you learn from your dad?
Thank you. Thank you very much. One of the main things that I remember about my dad helping me with, most of the time he stayed away from the coaches and he would just observe me. But when I was in high school, Baton Rouge High, he would come out occasionally and he would stand in the curve of the track. And I would be running laps, and as I would run by him, he would start saying, Billy, relax. Billy, let your jaws relax, where they bounce when you're running. And he just kept working on relax, relax, relax. And that just stayed with me throughout my total career.
I noticed when Sam handed you the medal.
Yeah.
He put it right by your heart right there. What were you thinking?
I did.
What was going through your mind right then?
Well, I just felt like that I was representing him and that he would be very happy, and I was just giving it to him from my heart.
One more time, Billy Harden here for his dad, Slats Harden. All right, from a fighting tiger to fight on. Thank you, Billy.
Angela Williams, USC. When Angela Williams' club coach was asked when he knew she was going to be a world-class sprinter, he replied, from day one. Apparently, he knew what he was talking about. At USC, Williams sprinted her way to greatness right out of the starting blocks, becoming the first freshman woman in NCAA Division I history to claim the 100-meter title. Fast forward a few years, and Williams had earned the distinction of becoming the first man or woman to win 4 straight NCAA 100-meter titles.
Oh, I'm so proud of myself.
Along the way, she also led the Trojans to a national team crown. A silver medal and a collegiate record in the 60 meters at the 2001 World Championships jump-started her fabulous international career. World class? Yes, indeed. Fight on, USC's Angela Williams. You're in the Hall of Fame.
Never a serious injury while participating in track and field, and blows her Achilles playing flag football. This is why I recommend a sedentary lifestyle, okay? All right, when you were up and about, it was all about speed, 400s. Where did you get that? Where'd you get the quicks from?
You know, I think it comes from not only my parents. My mom actually was a pretty good runner in high school, and my father had the skills as well. My dad actually was my high school coach, and also was one of the coaches for my age group team. But ultimately, it's a gift from God. I truly believe that I'm blessed, you know, that it was something I was born to do. I believe that everyone has a gift, and I just found mine and just rolled with it.
All right, 4 100s, that means we've got 4 stories. We're going to tell 3 of them. Let's start 01. Your second one was important. It was here. Why does that one stand out?
My second one was significant to me because, you know, when you're running, it's an individual race. It's just you're in the zone. But it's so much more important when you can share it with others. And so that year, my entire team won. We won the championships. And so for me to share that moment with my team and my coaches was so much more fulfilling, because just to see the pure joy in their face and to know that my performances help to contribute to the whole, that's what it's all about.
Okay, what stands out, the first and the fourth?
Oh, so coming in my first year, I was an underdog. Making it to the finals. There were so many other great runners. You know, I had Kelly White and Nancy Perry. I didn't have one of the fastest times. I actually was in lane 2, so it was like, you know, I'm hidden. No one's paying attention to me. And I was having a little bit of issues with my hamstring, actually. So through the rounds, that the night before the finals, I was a little nervous. So I was talking to my dad. I'm saying, I feel it, and I don't know if the leg is going to hang on for me. And so we actually were up kind of late that night. I was in the hall of the hotel, down in the start position, trying to like run out and test the leg and everything. And he's like, "You think you can do it?" I said, well, I mean, we won't know until we just get out there and do it. So that race that you guys saw my freshman year, that was just me running for my life. It was just a complete blur. I don't even remember anything until I crossed the line. So that whole jumping up and down and praising the Lord was just because I was truly amazed with what I pulled out, because the night before I did have doubt. I was conflicted with whether to even compete the next day. And then my fourth one was very significant to me because I had so much pressure on me from winning 1, 2, and 3. So now to come to this history-making, time, and everyone's going, is she gonna be able to do it? And I'm not a big media person, so I never pay attention to like what people say, or like I'm not, reading the papers and listening. And so, I said, this is big, and it's bigger than me. And I want to make history that will be here to last forever for myself, for my family, for my teammates, my coaches, everyone along the way. So to get to that moment and cross the line, and it wasn't like one of those she won for sure type of situations. I crossed the line, and I'm standing there with everyone else, and we're kind of looking, we're waiting, and I'm like, why are they having us wait so long? They already have the picture, what's going on? So we finally look, and then my name pops up, and I lost it. So I'm running up and down the track, like, oh my God. And the greatest part of it is that it was better than the men. The men have never done it before. And the women are always trying to be trailblazers and show that we can do just as much as they can. So for me to do something that no one has ever done, male or female, it's a blessing.
She said she wasn't really into the media, but I saw her this morning. She had that Eugene Register Guard and had a big old smile on her face reading that article. All right, your coach at USC said at the time, greatest female athlete to come to USC in track and field. That's a huge statement. What did it mean to you, and how did you participate in promoting USC track and field while you were still there?
For him to say something like that it's an honor, because I know there are so many greats that have come before me, that have paved the way for me to even have the opportunity to be there at USC. I truly respect Coach Alice. I mean, I didn't expect him to be here today, so Coach T just completely shocked me by holding that surprise in. But they were always supportive of me at USC in that program. And I think when you have coaches that support you and are always having your back, then it helps you to be able to perform and shine. And yeah, it's just been, I'm overwhelmed right now. I'm so excited. It's just been a great experience this weekend.
What stood out? What's the one thing that stood out the most this weekend?
Just being in the moment. and being able to share it with my husband and just seeing all the other great athletes. And you realize that it's not who we are, it's just what we do. So when you sit and you get to speak to other athletes that are of greatness, you realize just how pure, good people we are, how many other great qualities we have, and how we're wanting to give and use our gift to help other people. And so it's inspiring.
Angela Williams, everybody. Let's keep it in the Trojan family.
Balázs Kiss, USC. How far did USC's Balázs Kiss go to cement his legacy as one of the greatest hammer throwers in collegiate history? Oh, about 268 feet.
268 feet, 10 inches.
With his amazing throw in the 1995 NCAA championships, Kiss distanced himself from all others, establishing a collegiate record that still stands today. No other athlete has come within 10 feet of that lofty mark since. This talented Trojan holds the top 8 throws in collegiate history. Oh, and he was undefeated as a collegian, winning 4 national titles in a row and becoming only the 4th field athlete ever to do so in a single event. Kiss crowned his career with gold at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. All hail to thee, USC's Balázs Kiss. You're in the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's hammer time, but unfortunately Balázs Kiss could not be here tonight. He's in his native Hungary, and if I did the math right, it's about 2:15 in the morning there, and this is available streaming, so hopefully he's watching, and we raise an imaginary toast, and in Hungarian, I think it's Eze Shijira, which means cheers, or it means something unprintable. But anyhow, here's the Balázs Kiss. Let's keep it in the Conference of Champions, shall we?
Amy Skieresz, Arizona. Just how dominant was Arizona's Amy Skieresz during her collegiate career? Well, I mean, there were a few races where she lapped the field. The first woman in Division I to win 4 NCAA titles in the same year, Skieresz claimed the cross-country championship as a sophomore by a commanding 16 seconds. Those margins of victory grew to 62 and 63 seconds, the largest in NCAA history in any event, with their ensuing 10,000-meter track titles over the next 2 years. This 7-time champion remains the only NCAA female to ever accomplish the outdoor 5,000-meter, 10,000-meter double twice in Division I. In her 4 years as a Wildcat, Skieresz never finished worse than second in a national event. Bear down. Arizona's Amy Skieresz is in the Hall of Fame.
Amy Skieresz, everybody. Listen, we just celebrated 2 Southern California USC athletes. This is a Southern California girl who ended up going to Arizona. How does USC, how does UCLA let you out of the state?
Well, Coach Murray, Tucson, college town, wanted to get away from being so close to home. You want to feel like you're going away to college, but Arizona was the right fit. Not across the country, but close enough. But honestly, yeah, U of A, the team atmosphere and training there is great, weather's great. I think as a distance runner, your teammates and your coach is huge because it's cross country, indoor track, outdoor track. You spend a tremendous amount of time with those people and your coaches, and so you want to feel comfortable. So that came first, and like I said, it was a great college town, great place to be.
Did SC and UCLA put the hard rush on you?
I think I saw the coach from USC out here. I did look there. UCLA was in the mix too. I think again as a distance runner, I felt, and I don't want to throw any shade, but it was hard because you have to get in a van and you got to drive somewhere to run. It's not easy to step out of your dorm room at USC and go for a 10-mile run. So that was part of it. And honestly, just to feel like in college you want to kind of get away and have a new experience. So that was my backyard. So I wanted to venture a little farther away from home. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Short or long distance, indoor or outdoor, you excelled at them all. What did you prefer or enjoy most?
I would say cross country because it's different courses, change it up. You're golf courses, off trail, that kind of thing. Track is great in the sense that, like I was telling someone, cross country is fun, but it's just, you're all, it's all distance runners. Then you move into track and you got all different personalities, different events. So from the team atmosphere, I liked track season, but as a pure distance runner, cross country was my favorite.
What race or racing moment would you put in an Amy time capsule?
The cross country championship, because it was at home, it was in Tucson. So to be at home in Arizona and win a national title, I don't think it gets better than that in front of like my family, friends, and
Was that the one you won by 16 seconds, 62 seconds, or 63 seconds?
I don't remember.
By a lot.
It's all a blur, but
By
it was
a
fun. Yeah,
lot.
but that was fun.
Okay, you had unparalleled college success at the distances you ran, and then you walked away. It's all over the internet when I'm doing homework, reading about all these Hall of Famers, and there are people out there like, what happened? She was so good, and then she was gone.
That's a hard question. I was saying that to Ryan, my husband. I did dabble for several months. I ran for Nike, and I went to Europe. We trained in Australia. I ventured out and put my toe in the water of that world, and it wasn't for me. It's just a different ball game, and it's very isolating. You're across the country, or across in Europe, and your family's far away. The training's grueling. It's after 4 years of giving everything, pretty much. I mean, it was like physically, mentally, I was just tapped out. And I think in this sport, and to compete at that level, you have to be 100% bought in. And I was like, I love running, and the racing part just wasn't fun anymore. And I was like, if I'm not going to be 100% invested, then it's time to move on to different things.
When you go for a run now, as just Amy goes for a run,
I run every day.
How many? What are you? 8, 10? What do you go?
Average probably 6 miles. My daughter just got into running. We ran a half marathon, so it's fun to have my kids. My son just started running track, so it's so fun to kind of get back into it and see it from there.
You mentioned your husband and your family, and Ryan, who was an All-American at Arkansas. He surprised you, didn't he, with the family here on this trip?
Yes, it was just going to be us this weekend. That's fine. Our kids are, we have 3 teenagers. They're busy. Their last week of school's coming up, so it's like they got too much on their plates. And then they all flew in and came out yesterday. My in-laws are here, so it's really special. Because I was telling someone too, as teenagers, they don't care what their parents did and blah blah blah. They don't like whatever. Good for you, mom. So it was nice to be like, I did something before, I was a mom. I did, a little bit of stuff. So I think, and then for them to see these other honorees, and it's been really eye-opening for them to see what else is out there, yeah.
Kids, I bet you think this is pretty cool, what's happening to mom. Amy Skieresz, everybody.
Thank you.
Bear down, go!
Hollis Conway, Louisiana. With his amazing feats that defied gravity, Hollis Conway wowed the masses as he soared to record-setting heights in the high jump. This 3-time NCAA champion at Southwestern Louisiana, now the University of Louisiana Lafayette, took the track and field world by storm with 3 NCAA crowns and 2 Olympic medals. Silver at the '88 Olympics, establishing a then all-time best for collegiate athletes. 4 years later, it was a bronze in Barcelona. His senior year, golden. Conway kept surpassing collegiate and American records. A new American record. More than 30 years later, the collegiate records that he set still stand. That's one amazing Ragin' Cajun. And tonight, Hollis Conway is in the Hall of Fame.
Hollis Conway, when you watch that video, your eyes are just smiling. What are you thinking?
I don't know how I did it. My body doesn't do that anymore.
Listen, we're reading about so what happens if you don't get cut from your Little League football team? What happens if you don't get cut from your Little League baseball team? What happens if you indeed did become the next Mean Joe Green?
Well, I agree with Angela. I believe we were all born with gifts and talents and skills, and I think the number one thing that needs to happen in anybody's life is they need to discover what those are, because you got a much better chance of being successful doing what you were born to do than doing what you want to do. And so if I had not got cut from those other teams, I believe I would have lived my life as a second, third string, whatever, instead of a first string high jumper.
How did you discover there was a first string high jumper in you?
I tried everything, so I got cut from everything. I got cut from football. I didn't even get a chance to get cut from football. They looked at me and said no. And I got cut from basketball, and I got cut for everything. And then I went out for track, and I tried every event. And the only thing I made the team in was the high jump, and I was the third best high jumper.
Do you remember when it clicked?
Oh, yeah. The first time I jumped, I missed the mat and hit the ground. So first time I hit the pit was clicking.
Well, that's what it would have felt had you made the football team. So, all right, 1988, you win silver in Seoul. You return to Louisiana Lafayette. There's a homecoming football game on. This is a great story. What happened? What'd you do? What happened?
So it was incredible. The town was incredible. So what they did was they were going to surprise the fans at the football game. So they put me in a band uniform over my Olympic uniform, and I hid with the band when they marched out. And they opened up a huge American flag, and they were playing the national anthem, and I snuck out up under the American flag. And then when they folded the flag back, I was in the middle of the football stadium, and the people went crazy. And then I did a huge box jump on top of the box and stood up, and it was just phenomenal.
Oh, my. You know, we've heard the band is on the field. This was the man is on the field.
Yeah.
1989. That was your magical year. When you think back to it, what comes to mind?
So 1989, myself and the Cuban high jumper Javier Sotomayor were racing to be the first person to jump 8 feet. And I'm watching the news to see what he jumped, and he's watching to see what I jump. In every competition, you want to jump as high as you can because you want to be the first one to do it. And that year I jumped, I think, 3 American records. I jumped 7.9, 7.9 and a quarter, 7.9 and 3/4. And the night before I jumped 7.10, he jumps 8 feet in Salamanca, Spain. So, I had a great year.
Wind-dated.
Yeah, wind-dated. Great year, but I lost that big battle there.
What surprises you most about the marks, indoor and outdoor, that still stand?
It surprises me that they still stand. I think we have some of the most talented athletes in the country that are incredibly gifted, but I'm afraid that a lot of those athletes are staying on the football fields and the basketball courts and any other sport and not really getting the opportunity to experience this great world that we get to experience in track and field.
What's it mean to you to be a Hall of Famer tonight?
So I think being a Hall of Famer is an incredible opportunity and an incredible responsibility to inspire the next generation and generations to come to not give up, to chase your dreams, to overcome obstacles, to hang in there and to do things to make this world a better place. We all have that responsibility to leave a mark and to continue to communicate through our actions and through our words what it takes to be successful, and not just as an athlete, but as a person to make this world a better place.
What are you doing now? Because if public speaking isn't one thing, it should be.
I do have a motivation speaking business. So.
Give it up, Hollis Conway. Let's roll.
Regina Kavanaugh, Rice. She's widely regarded as Rice's greatest female athlete ever, period. Regina Kavanaugh has the resume to prove it. Kavanaugh dominated the shot put in the mid-1980s, becoming the only woman to win 3 consecutive NCAA Division I outdoor titles in that event. Add a trio of NCAA indoor crowns, as well as a propensity for breaking her own records almost every time she stepped into the circle. Now that's one accomplished owl. This 9-time All-American concluded her illustrious collegiate career with the 3 longest throws ever recorded at the D1 Outdoor Championships. Kavanaugh wasn't done yet, becoming the first ever recipient of the Walter Byers NCAA Postgraduate Scholarship for Academic Excellence. Now that's a student athlete. Now that's a Hall of Famer. Rice's Regina Kavanaugh.
So we talked last night, and I was thinking this morning, if they had walk-up music like they do for a baseball player, if they had walk-up music for you in track and field, yours would have been Lean on Me or Family Affair, where you talked about 3 distinct families really helping pave the way for your success in this journey with Rice. Can you share what you shared about those 3 distinct families?
Well, God gave me wonderful parents. My father was a football player and swimmer and went into the Army and had his education, eventually received his master's. 3 tours of Vietnam. He's at Arlington Cemetery now. What an honor. And my mother was an educator, a teacher of art. She was 6 foot, and I didn't get that. But what my parents did give me was so much love, so much support, and speed and power. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I had an English project, a letter, and I wrote all the Southwest Conference schools just inquiring about their throws programs. There was one Southwest Conference school that responded, and that was Victor Lopez. He had a fledgling 3-year AIAW program. He was building the Rice Women's Track and Field family, and he and only one other Southwest Conference school recruited me, and I signed early in my senior year. And when I won the Texas shot put and discus my senior year and went to the Junior Pan Ams, people were going, why are you going to Rice? That's not a throwing school. Why aren't you going to California? Why aren't you going to Oregon? What are you doing? But he believed in me, and he identified himself as an educator. He's a coach of coaches, but more importantly, for us women who are in the Rice University Women's Track and Field program, he's a coach of life. He knew that we had to balance academics, our athletics, but he also knew there were other aspects, our mental, our emotional, relational, spiritual. He trained me in conditioning, running 5Ks, jumping over hurdles for plyometrics. He brought it all. And there was times I would have labs for my human physiology major. I was a pre-med. And we would train on the weekends because I had to have a lab during the week. And Evelyn, I love you so much. Thank you for giving me Victor, who brought me to success that I never dreamed of. But more importantly, as important, Victor had extended family at the Rice community. And when there was no dinner at our dorms called colleges on Sundays, J. Fred Duckett and his wife Bodine and his daughter Petra adopted me. And I was his first of 50 students that they brought into their home over decades of time. And when I got married at Rice on the campus, I had 6 parents stand up and give me away. They were that special. And his 26 years of Rice, he passed that on to Jim Bevan, who has been there for 36 years and has continued love, hard work, and excellence for all the women track and field athletes. And the excellence in academics and athletics has continued and just expanded the program so very much.
That excellence in academics, Rhodes Scholar candidate, by the way. What do you do now?
I am a child and adolescent psychiatrist. I was throwing on Main Street at Rice, went across the street to the University of Texas Medical School, stayed there for psychiatry residency and child and adolescent psychiatry fellowship. But I am all the way back around, an Army brat, taking care of Army dependents at Fort Cavazos, and it is such an honor that Rice launched me into the career I have today, and I am so very grateful to have my 3 children, James, Justin, and Maggie, here with me tonight, and it's an honor to just share this experience with them.
Speaking of launching, do you remember the first time you launched a shot put? And did you feel like, wow, I'm into this?
You got to remember, I wasn't really coached in high school. They'd pull out the manuals and they'd go, step here, step there. And so when I was throwing in the kind of higher 40s, and when I went to Rice, and I had a coach, and weightlifting and powerlifting and Olympic lifting and circuits that made me vomit. I threw 52 as a freshman, and people really, really wondered, Victor, what drug cocktail are you giving her? And this was the 80s, and it was happening. And I do want to just add, I got to see Jada Ross throw indoors today, and I have to tell you, I am so very proud of Michelle Carter, who won a gold for U.S. shot putting in 2016, and for all the women who are spinners that are throwing into the 60s and high 60s. I know I had met the 1984 East German who had the 72 mark world record. I am so very proud of where women have come, that they are going for clean records, and they are doing it in an ethical, hardworking, excellent way. And it's just an honor to have done it the right way. And I just love Victor so very much for holding me to high standards and making it clean, making it ethical. And I am so proud of U.S. women throwers in today because they are bringing it.
Regina Kavanaugh just brought it. Thank you. Thank you, you're wonderful.
Carl Saab, Kansas. At 6'4", 280 pounds, Kansas shot putter Carl Saab was known as the Gentle Giant. Once he stepped into the throwing ring, however, well, have mercy on his fellow competitors. During his time in a Jayhawk uniform, Saab dominated the field by winning an unprecedented 6 consecutive NCAA championships in indoor and outdoor competition. No other athlete in NCAA history had won more than 4 before that. Saab claimed his shot-putting crowns by obliterating records along the way. At the 1969 NCAA Indoor Championships, Saab secured the title with a throw of 66 feet, 8 3/4 inches, a mark that was then the 4th longest in the history of the indoor shot put worldwide. To that, we say rock chalk at Kansas. Carl Saab joins the Hall of Fame.
Carl had some gold medal sideburns going right there. Those were some good chops. Carl couldn't be here tonight. Let's remember, 25 years ago, Jim Ryan was all the rage, and we'll talk a little bit about him with Marty in a moment. But they had 3 monsters in the shot and the discus, and Carl Saab was one of them. Carl couldn't be here. We salute Carl, and we roll on.
Tricia K. Smith, Pittsburgh. As a senior at Pitt, Tricia K. Smith's coach called her probably the most dominant female track athlete collegiately over the past 4 years. Well, take a look at her many accomplishments and you'll agree with that coach. One of the country's top collegiate jumpers, Smith's powerful leaps propelled her to numerous triumphs during her time in a Panther uniform, not to mention several trips to the champion's podium. This 15-time All-American soared past the competition to claim 7 NCAA indoor and outdoor titles combined in the long and triple jumps. A dual-threat field athlete, she also earned distinction as a 2-time finalist for the prestigious Hondo Award and later as a member of the NCAA's Silver Anniversary Team. Hail to Pitt and hail to Tricia K. Smith as she joins the Hall of Fame.
Tricia K. Smith right here. Tell us where you were when you learned
Larry
you were going to be
Myricks,
inducted.
Mississippi College.
Whoa!
Sorry.
That's a fix.
So I was told about this award on April 1st, and I thought it was a prank, honestly, to start. I got a plethora of calls saying Coach Webb of University of Pittsburgh was looking for me. And I was like, April 1st, what's going on? And so when I did get in touch with Coach Webb, he said Sam Seams was wanting my details. And honestly, I had to Google who Sam Seams was because I didn't know. And then I talked to Sam, and here I am.
There you go, here you are. How did you end up at Pitt? How does a girl from Jamaica end up at Pitt?
So I ended up at Pitt actually by accident. I wasn't meant to go to Pitt. My last year of high school, I went to Penn Relays, and I was set for George Mason. I had my heart set on George Mason. That's where I was going. And at the end of my competition, my coach, who was also my guardian, came up to me and said, "You're not going to George Mason." And he wouldn't tell me why. So I reluctantly, very reluctantly, met Stephen Lewis and the athletic coordinator at University of Pittsburgh. And then they came together and made this last-minute trip, because Penn Relays is at end of April, so the window for commitment was closing. So I went to Jamaica, put down my bag, packed another bag, and I was on a plane to Pittsburgh. And the thing that they did for me was, they didn't talk to me about track. They talked to me about academics. And then I saw all the hospitals on campus, and I was like, okay, I'm going to Pitt. So I chose Pitt after that visit.
Coach Lewis once said she could do it all. Long jump, triple jump, we know that. High jump, shot, javelin. If she concentrated on just one, would have been a national champion, or would have competed for national championships every time.
So I also did the multi-events. So he was describing the multi-events. There wasn't a meet that I didn't score more than 20 plus points. Even Big East, ECACs, I was doing HEP, long, triple, everything inside the HEP except the 800, because I hated it. I was doing everything else and scoring in the top 3 or winning.
Yeah, to that end, so she once said, Tricia K once said, the highlight of her career was Pittsburgh finishing tied for second at the '98 NCAA indoors. Now, somebody would say, wow, why would tied for second be such a momentous occasion? What's the backstory?
So I think it was 97, not 8.
Okay.
By then I was going downhill.
Internet could let me down every now and then.
So indoors, Pitt took 2 athletes to the NCAA championships indoor. It was me and Shantae Earl. I won the long and the triple, and Shantae finished 2nd or 3rd in the 800. So we scored 28 or 26 points, I'm not sure, and we finished 2nd behind LSU as a team of 2.
That's impressive. What's your favorite Olympic memory representing Jamaica?
So I was fortunate to go to 3 Olympics, but the first one stood out. There's a little bit of story. So my coach was Frank Addo of the UK, and we went to a training camp in South Africa, and I love sweets, you can tell, right? The size, I love sweets. And during the training camp, I wanted ice cream, and I really wanted that ice cream, so I snuck and had a bit, and he told me it was gonna cost me 2 centimeters. Indoor, 2004, finished 4th by 2 centimeters. Olympics, Athens, Greece, I finished 4th by another 2 centimeters. And so for me, that memory stood out because I should have listened, but I didn't. So here I am.
That was the ice cream.
It was very good. It went down excellent. It was a treat.
You mentioned Pittsburgh really grabbed you because they talked to you about education. Why is education so important for life after athletics?
So I want to just take this minute to thank the NCs for allowing foreign-born nationals like myself the opportunity to showcase our talent and to make a better future off the field. An NCAA scholarship gave me the tools, and University of Pittsburgh gave me the knowledge for that, to use those tools. And so I don't think I would have been in this position. I may have, because I'm pretty determined, but it would have taken me a longer route. I'm fortunate not to have student loans. Anybody here who struggles with it, I know. I'm very fortunate to have that, but I'm very, very fortunate to be able to have the career off the field that I do. I am a physical therapist with a doctorate degree and now licensed lymphedema therapist. So had it not been for this journey, it wouldn't have happened.
Enjoying the journey with Tricia K. Smith. Wonderful. Thank you. Who's next?
Larry Myricks, Mississippi College. He was a small college guy from Mississippi with a world-class reputation. Oh, and Larry Myricks just happened to be one of the greatest long jumpers in collegiate history. Competing for tiny Mississippi College, Myricks burst onto the national scene in spectacular fashion as a sophomore, winning the NCAA title in the long jump and placing second at the Olympic trials in 1976. His senior season was one for the record books, claiming NCAA, U.S. National, and World Cup titles, in addition to having the longest jump in the world that year. In all, the versatile Myricks leaped and sprinted his way to 8 NCAA individual championships, including 6 long jump titles and 2 in the 200-meter race. Talk about making a name for yourself and Mississippi College. Larry Myricks is in the Hall of Fame.
Man, you look like you were shot out of a cannon on a couple of those shots. When you see that video, what goes through your mind?
You know, it brings back a lot of memories. Those were some phenomenal times, and I tell people all the time, it's so easy to do things that you really love to do, and you know, if you're blessed enough to be good at it, then that's just icing on the cake. You know, so yeah, it brings back a lot of memories, and that was a phenomenal chapter in life, and it was enjoyable.
79 was your biggest year. Is there a moment? I'd asked Amy, I think earlier it was Amy I asked about, if you had a moment, a meet that you'd put in a time capsule. If somebody said they needed a Larry Myricks time capsule.
You know, I think when at the championships when I jumped at 27.11.5. That would be my time capsule, because at the time that was the second longest jump in history. And my challenge to me as an athlete and as a jumper was to always improve. You know, we all want to win, but I want to always get better. And it might not be a win that day, but if it is, that's icing on the cake as well. But it would just always be just a little bit better every time you go out.
You know, when you're reading about Mississippi College, it doesn't say Mississippi College, it says small Mississippi College. Every time small is before that. You were recruited to go to much bigger schools, universities. Why Mississippi College?
Frustration. I mean, as a high school athlete, I was pretty heavily recruited, you know, by a lot of bigger schools. And where I went to high school just so happens that the principal's son was the coach at Mississippi College. So from the time I was 9th grade up until I agreed to go to MC, that's all I heard about was Mississippi College, Mississippi College, Mississippi College. I'm sitting in shop class one day, and we're learning how to do leather and make belts, and because I'm a creative person, I was enjoying that. And over the intercom, the principal says, "Would you send Larry Myricks to my office?" And I'm going like, yeah, what have I done now? You know, so I go to the office, and he says, "Sit down, young man, let's chat." And so we're sitting there talking, and he just kind of stopped and said, "If I called my son, would you sign a letter of intent to go to Mississippi College?" And I said, "Yeah, please call it. Let's just get it over with." You know, and 5 minutes later, he was walking in the door. And I signed and went, but wouldn't do a thing different. It was an amazing experience.
76, Olympic trials, Eugene. Here we are.
Yeah.
Nearly 50 years later.
Yeah.
What memories would bring back going? It's not the old Hayward, but it's track down.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a phenomenal facility. It's absolutely gorgeous. We got that tour today. But the thing that amazed me and that I really look forward to was those fans in the stands. You know, we compete a lot of places, you know, but when you come to Track Town, you're competing in front of folks who know track, you know, so when you step out on the track, they know your stats already. So they come with expectations, you know, so you got to come to perform, and we always did. And it's just a phenomenal place to compete, and the fans poured it into you to get it out of you, so, yeah.
76 Eugene was great. 76 Montreal was looking to be great, and then what happens?
Broken ankle. We were doing warm-ups, getting ready for the finals, and I'm just running down, checking steps like I do every competition. And I heard a snap, I felt a snap, and I knew what it was because that was my right leg, but I had done the same thing on my left leg as a senior in high school. So I knew exactly what it was, and so I just went and sat down, and it was a low moment, but I was taken down to the medical tent, and I'd never forget one of the doctors said to me, because they didn't x-ray it, and they just looked at it, and it wasn't swollen. Well, we'll give you a little cortisone shot, just take the pain away, you can go ahead and compete. But fortunately for me, I was smart enough to say no, because that could have ruined me that could have just killed my career because it was broken. And I wound up being out of the sport almost 2 years, trying to get that thing healed. So that was a tough one.
You healed it, and then you returned to Montreal and put it on them in the Worlds.
And that was at 27-11, so it was an extreme high and extreme low all in the same stadium. It's full circle.
We talked about it's the journey, not the destination.
Right.
Not the medal that you're getting here, although that's to be honored and it's privileged.
Right.
But it's the people sitting in the front row
Exactly.
and this group of people here that mean so much. Your thoughts?
You know what? And a lot of them have kind of said it and alluded to it. It's the thing I take away more from my time in track and field is the relationships. We've all got medals, we've all got trophies. When I first started going to Europe, they gave the biggest trophies. You go to it. If you're in Europe and you're going over for 8 or 10 meets like we would often do, you're packing around a lot of hardware. And so at some point you got to start unloading some of this stuff. And what I wound up doing is I'd leave one here, I'd leave one there, and I'd take the most interesting ones and I'd take them home. But kind of through all that, and Hollis, we were all having breakfast this morning, we were talking, and as athletes, we're competitive. We get together before the meet, and we have a good time, and we get together after the meet and have a good time. Because that's kind of what it's all about. I'm still, very good friends with a lot of folks I competed against. I've only had 3 coaches in my career: a high school coach, collegiate coach, and post-collegiate, and I'm still in contact with all of them because they all planted something different in me that kind of got me to ultimately where I went and was able to accomplish things I was able to accomplish. And they're all father figures. Talk to Coach G more often now. I just saw my collegiate coach a little over a month ago, and then Coach Wright, my high school coach. I haven't talked to him for a minute, but I know he's okay. But it's the relationships, because I love this medal. So whoever picked this out did one heck of a good job. I've never had one this big nor this heavy. I absolutely love it. But it'll go where all the rest of them are. I got them in a bag in the closet.
Enjoying the journey. Larry Myricks, everybody. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Louise Ritter, Texas Women's University. Before she became an Olympic gold medalist, Louise Ritter was a 2-sport athlete at Texas Women's University. But it was in track and field, the high jump in particular, where Ritter made the biggest impact. Indeed, Ritter pushed American high jumping to new heights during her time at TW, quite literally raising the bar with one record after another. This 4-time All-American stamped her name into the history books with 2 collegiate records, both of which were also American records, while claiming 3 consecutive high jump crowns at the AIAW Outdoor Track and Field Championships. Her Olympic story? Well, gold is quite uplifting too. Let's raise the roof as Texas Women's University Louise Ritter takes the stage as a Hall of Famer.
Thank you.
Louise Ritter, Texas Women's University. You received the first athletic scholarship to Texas Women's University. That had to be big money.
Oh, it was big money, but the real story behind it is that it actually happened right here in Eugene, Oregon. I was a senior in high school, and I was at the Olympic trials, and I met a gentleman named Dr. Bert Lyle. And he walked up after the competition, and he said to me, where are you going to school? And I said, I have not decided yet, but the one thing I do know is that wherever I go, I have to go on a scholarship because I was from a very, very small town, a very large family, and I knew my ticket to get out of Red Oak was going to be through a scholarship. So through the meet, we talked over and over, and by the end of the competition, or by the end of the Olympic trials, he came to me and he offered me a full scholarship and told me it was going to be the first athletic scholarship at Texas Women's University, and it was for $500 a semester. And believe it or not, this tells my age, but at that time, it covered all my tuition, my books, and my room and board. And he kind of sold me at Hayward Field. So from that day on, I've been a true pioneer at Texas Women's University.
500 does not go nearly as far as it used to.
I don't think it would buy your lunch now.
No. You're 10 years old. You didn't have an easy childhood health-wise, but you're 10 years old. You've got the '68 Mexico games on. We talked about. We all had the little TV with 3 channels, black and white TV back then, and you tell your mom, I'm going to go to the Olympics and get a gold medal.
I did, and it's an interesting story because I was sitting in front of the TV. I'd never really been involved in any kind of sports at that time, but I was watching it, and I was so mesmerized with everything that was going on. And I don't remember to this day what event I was watching, but I remember, or my mom reminds me of it, that I said, one day I'm going to win a gold medal too, and my mom gently pat me on the shoulder, as all good supportive parents do, and said, I know you will, honey, or something like that, or sure you're going to. And it was really funny because it made such an impact on me. I don't know what it was, but from that moment on, I was obsessed with athletics. Everything, I tried every sport. As you said, I was a 2-sport athlete. I was a very good basketball player, but my passion was just the high jump. And I'm kind of like Hollis. Once I started doing it, it became part of my life. It was just something that was very easy, and it just led me down the path I was in. I've gone.
Well, for Hollis, he said it clicked when he jumped and he missed the pit and hit the ground. So when did the jump click for you, or how did it?
Well, I think we've all done that. I mean, the first time I tried to flop, I also missed the pit and hit the ground. I was a straddler at that time, and my coaches kept trying to get me to change, and I was like, well, I'm not that dumb. I'm going to go ahead and go over forward because I know I can land on the pit. But eventually I did change to the flop, and it clicked very quickly.
So you're 10 when you tell your mom, I'm going to win a gold medal. You're 30 when you win that gold medal.
Yes,
20 years later.
Exactly 20 years.
And that journey was one of exhilaration, but also some exasperation by the time you achieved what you had said you were going to achieve. You had put a lot of pressure on yourself.
I absolutely had. I think that, in 1980, I made the Olympic team and we boycotted. And that was when I was one of the top 2 or 3 jumpers in the world. And then in 1984, I decided to stay in the sport. And right before the Olympic Games, I had a hip flexor injury and didn't compete well. Then I had to reevaluate, determine whether I wanted to stay in and give it 4 more years. And then in 1987 was one of the best years of my career. I was jumping, I was beating Coach Standanova the first time. She's a world record holder, and everything was going so swell for me. And then I got the flu and didn't compete well in the World Championships. And that was a time that I really evaluated right after, do I want to continue this or not? And it took a lot of self-reflection, and I decided that everything I'd done at that point hadn't really gotten me to where I needed to be. So I kind of decided to change everything. So I started trying to do things to prevent injuries. And now the younger people do that stuff, but before we would get hurt and then you would treat the injury. So I started kind of eating better. I started doing things to prevent injuries with a chiropractor, with a masseuse and that kind of thing. And things went well for me. And of course, the culmination of it was winning the gold medal in '88. But I think like what we talked about a little bit, my defining moment for me was the relief that I felt after I won that medal in '88, because I felt like then I could look back and if I never took another jump again, or if I never competed another day in my life, I could accomplish what I said I wanted to do as a 10-year-old child.
What advice would you give? What advice would you give to yourself looking back?
I think that if I had to change anything along the way, I think I may have given some advice to myself about not being quite so hard on myself. I think that I was probably putting more pressure than anyone else was. But when you truly have a dream and a goal, if you're not putting that self pressure on yourself, then it's easy to walk away when things aren't going well. So I don't know really if I would have I'd change anything. You know, I think obviously I got where I needed to go, and I'm sitting here in the Hall of Fame today. So I don't know. I don't think I would change a thing.
You were a heck of a basketball player as well. Who do you got in the NBA Finals, Boston or Dallas?
Well, who do you think? The Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, Dallas all the way. Louise Ritter, Hall of Fame all the way. Thank you. You're wonderful. Who's next?
Marty Liquori, Villanova. As only the third U.S. high school runner of his time to break the magic 4-minute mile barrier, Marty Liquori arrived on the Villanova campus to much acclaim. His exploits in a Wildcat uniform were just as magical. As a freshman in 1968, Liquori became the youngest person at the time to participate in the 1,500-meter final at the Olympics. By the time he was a senior, Liquori had won 4 of his 5 NCAA titles in the mile and was a member of 2 Villanova national championship teams. Add numerous sub-4-minute miles and that dramatic victory in that hotly contested Dream Mile race that featured fellow Hall of Famer Jim Ryan, who Liquori had beaten for the NCAA title the year before. Well, let's give a V for Villanova's Marty Liquori as he enters the Hall of Fame.
Marty Liquori, Villanova. I thought your parents wanted you to go to an Ivy League school.
I did have a lot of pressure about going to an Ivy League school because in the beginning, track was just about getting a free college scholarship. And so I was being pressured to accept a scholarship to Harvard or Penn. And after I ran a 4:04 mile in the Penn relays, my mother said, well, maybe you could go wherever you want. And my high school coach also said, good friend of Bill's, Fred Dwyer, said, you know, there's a lot of people who could be lawyers, but you have a talent and, you know, you should follow that up. Now, that being said, I would never give that advice to anybody. Take the sure thing, man. To get onto this stage, every one of us, it was like 1,000,000 to 1.
Yeah. Well, you go to Villanova. Villanova happy that you were there because in '68 you're the youngest to ever compete in the Olympic 1,500 meters, and in '69 the whole thing with Jim Ryan starts. He beat you in the indoor, right? And then you took him in the outdoor. So let's start '69 before we get to '71.
Well, like everybody of that generation, Jim Ryan was up on a pedestal. So at a turning point in my career and in the whole trajectory of our rivalry was my sophomore year. You had a great picture of it when we came down the stretch together. And I was sick couldn't get off the toilet before that race. Jumbo Elliott forced me to get out there. But, you know, that was a turning point and a great rivalry was started at that point.
The rivalry becomes the Dream Mile in '71. This almost became like an Ollie Frazier hype thing, and it was bigger than the NBA back then. The NBA, you know, what was that like to be in that media spotlight for that week leading up to that, or weeks leading up to that run?
Yeah, I don't think too many people in track and field went through that type of thing. I always was admiring Carl Lewis because he seemed to have like 3 years of what I had for one weekend. And I also think when I'm watching NBA or any of these guys that are under that kind of pressure for 10 years at a time. I don't know how they did it. It was the most miserable week of my life. But the one thing I do remember, because we have so many coaches here, Jumbo Elliott was not a guy who put any kind of pressure on me. He only told me twice. Once before the Olympic trials, he said, "This is important. Don't get in trouble." And the other time was the Ryan thing, the only time he really discussed strategy. And he said, you know, you better not wait too late. You need to go soon with this guy. And that was the two big pep talks I paid 4 years.
When you think back on 71 and 69 and that whole period of time, what thoughts do you have?
Well, it was a great thing that we had 2 milers that were among the best of the world. I mean, I have to always say that if Jim Ryan did not exist, I don't know if I would have existed, because he laid down the path. I broke the 4-minute mile in high school. Yeah, after Jim Ryan showed us the way. He was the world record holder. Unlike Louise, I ran in the '68 Olympics. That was the first Olympics I ever saw. That was the first international track meet I ever saw. So I'm just this kid that thinks, oh, Americans are good at the mile. I'm an American. And, you know, Jim Ryan's great. So if that hadn't have happened, if I had to be like the first great long jumper in 20 years, I think it would have been a whole different thing for me. I have to credit him for, you know, a lot of my career.
And then that career turned into a broadcast career. I mean, so many Olympiads. And is there a moment that stands out to you as Marty Liquori, the analyst, that you're like, yeah, that was the moment that sticks with me forever? Obviously, Munich is in a whole nother category.
Yeah. Well, I was very fortunate to be able to spend those 30 years after my career was over watching these athletes run. I think the one moment I remember was the very first race I did, or the second race I did, and it was the Olympic final in the 1,500 meters, and you would understand this. So the race was over, Kipkeino and Vasila of Finland, and it was exactly the kind of race that I would have liked to have been in. And the producer said, okay, we're away in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I go, oh, shit. That was my race. And the producer said, Marty, just because I said 1, that doesn't mean we were off the air.
I had a moment like that at ESPN.
I didn't get fired after that.
Yeah. All right, listen, you've thrown yourself into jazz music the way you threw yourself into running the mile. How is jazz music and running similar?
Well, I think all music, it's similar in that to be a great musician, like an athlete, you have to practice a lot by yourself, and you have to practice the things that you need to practice, not the things you want to practice. And it's kind of like running, because you practice by yourself for a long time, and then you get on the stage with a band, or you run in the Penn relays, and everybody runs their best time. Or in music, the bass player's not bugging the hell out of you, the drummer's okay, and the piano player's laying it down. And in both of those situations, you get into a flow, which you can't really experience in any other thing of life. So in that way, they're very similar ways to get in that flow and actually leave this planet for a little while without drugs.
He hit all the right notes. Marty Liquori. Thank you. Wonderful. One more.
Benita Fitzgerald, Tennessee. Leave it to an engineering major to construct some of the greatest firsts in the history of her school's women's track and field program. Benita Fitzgerald did just that during her record-setting career at the University of Tennessee. Among the historic milestones, Fitzgerald led the 1981 Lady Vols to the first national title ever won by a Tennessee women's team in any sport, and became the first collegiate athlete to finish the 100-meter hurdles in under 13 seconds. The 14-time All-American claimed 5 national individual titles in AIAW and NCAA competition as a Vol, including 3 100-meter hurdles outdoor championships. A few months after graduation, Fitzgerald also became the school's first Olympic gold medalist at the '84 LA Games. She's a trailblazer, and tonight Tennessee's Benita Fitzgerald is a Hall of Famer.
Benita Fitzgerald, let's start with the coaches that you'd like to thank.
Absolutely. You know, it goes from high school all the way to college, and in in middle school, Gwen Washington, plucked me off the gymnastics team. You see how tall I am, right? And I was horrible in gymnastics. The uneven parallel bars, I used to hit my back when I did like these soul circle things. It was crazy. But she saw something in me in PE class. And she said, you beat all the boys in PE class, you know, you have a great talent for running. And it's kind of like you redirect a 2-year-old. And she kind of got me away from gymnastics and into track and field. Of course, in high school, I had 2 great coaches. Ann Lockett told me after my freshman year, and a senior had made the 76 Olympic team, Paula Gervin, in the high jump. She said, you could be on the Olympic team in 4 years. And sure enough, I was. She left and a new head coach came in, Ruthie Brown, and she took me my sophomore to senior year all the way to the national championship. I got 5th in the national championships as a senior in high school, thanks to Ruthie. And then, of course, I went to Tennessee. And Terry Crawford, who's also in the Coaching Hall of Fame, and will be getting a Legends Award in a few weeks during the trials. And I spoke with her today, and she's amazing. And you know, I call some coaches, you know, she's amazing. She just pulled out all the stops to really help me get to my potential.
10 that made one means what, and means what to you?
Yeah, so one of the 10 that made one is here with me, Delisa Walton, now Delisa Myricks, married to Hall of Famer Larry Myricks. But there were 10 of us, from middle distance to distance, from throws to jumps, from hurdles to sprints on that team. We were the first, as you heard, Tennessee Lady Vol team to win a national championship. And because it was 10 athletes, so different, you know, multi-sport, multi-event, all coming together to create this winning championship team with Terry Crawford at the helm. They gave us the name the 10 that made one. The athletic department and the sports information department, Debbie Jennings and a bunch of other people decided to call us that, and you know, the front of page in the Knoxville News Sentinel and everything else. So it was really amazing, and we really felt that spirit as a team. And it's the proudest moment for me at University of Tennessee.
And from that, it's the 84 games. What's the lesson that you learned prior to the 84 games that you've held close to your heart ever since?
Yeah, I was sitting on the track at University of Tennessee. It was 80, 90 degrees, hot, sweltering summer sun. Had made my second Olympic team. The 80 team was the first, and of course we didn't get to go because Carter boycotted those Olympics. And I was sitting there on the track after practice with my teammates, and I was thinking to myself, boy, I hope I make the final. I hope I PR. I hope I, you know, run fast. I hope I beat so-and-so. But never in my mind did I think gold medal. Like it wasn't a thing. And I had this epiphany. I thought, well, why not me? I trained as hard as everybody else. I get up every day and go out to the track. In fact, on a flat 100, I was faster than any other hurdler in the world. I was top 20 in the world in the 100, top 20 in the world in the 200. And so that one time, that epiphany said, I approached the next few weeks of training and going into that stadium thinking to myself, you know, I expect to win the 100-meter hurdles gold medal. That's my gold medal, right? And so now I take that mantra of why not me with me throughout my career. Why not me as an engineer go work, you know, in sports marketing for Special Olympics International? Why not me, you know, now at the Olympic Committee in Atlanta, now become the first director at the Olympic Training Center in San Diego, having never managed anybody, and now I got a staff of 40 and 152 acres to manage. Why not me become the chief operating officer of the Olympic Committee or run 3 different nonprofits as CEO? And keep challenging myself as these opportunities come on to just ask myself that question. So I've written a book entitled Why Not Me? I'm looking for a book agent, and we'll hopefully, you know, get that book published sometime in the next year.
How about why not me in '96? You get in Atlanta. You're selected as one of 8 people to carry the flag for the American. What did that mean to you?
It meant a lot. I got a call on my birthday, July 6th, 1996, from Billy Payne, who was the you know, big guy who brought the Olympics to Atlanta and then who was the president of the Olympic Committee, and said, "Hey, Benita, I got some news for you." And I was like, "What?" He said, "We want you to carry the flag, be one of 8 Olympians tied to the Atlanta area." By then, I'd moved to San Diego, become the training center director, but because I'd worked for the Olympic Committee for 3 years there, he asked me to be one of the 8. It was, Edwin Moses, and it was a plethora of other major Olympians, and to walk into that stadium holding that flag, that moment that's so special and really so sacred, I think, in the Olympic movement, when you see that flag coming into the stadium, to be part of that amazing moment on American soil in this amazing moment, prior to Ali, lighting the torch, was amazing. And I think the most amazing part of it was my husband wasn't part of my Olympic history. He never got to see me run on the Olympic stage, but he got to be in the stands to watch me bring the Olympic flag into the stadium, and I was especially proud to be there and have him witness that.
He also gets to be here to tell me this. Should we talk about shopping for hammer pants?
My God, he gave you that story. Yes, I was in India. It was my last track meet ever was in India. I ran the 200 meters, not even the hurdles. And a bunch of us went shopping, as we always do. Larry talked about it. We played spades in the hotel. We hung out and everything. And so shopping was the thing, right? So we went to this market, and they had all these hammer-like pants, which clearly they probably didn't know they were hammer pants at the time. And so I got 1, I got 2, and I couldn't decide how many I was going to get. And finally, one of my teammates is like, "Benita, they cost $4. Get as many as you can cram into your suitcase," So I don't know, I got 8 or 10 pair and somehow got them home.
Well, we already had hammer time. We've now had Hall of Fame time. Benita Fitzgerald, Hall of Famer. And let's take a look back at the Hall of Fame weekend we had here. Wonderful, thank you. Thanks for watching the Collegiate Athlete Hall of Fame ceremony. We'll see you next year. All right, a shout out to Sam Seams. Your passion is contagious. We're all proud to be a part of your team, my man. Thank you. We'll see you all next year.